shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome. Ulozi fasila munataluna, alamba fasile lindakilona, kimomu tetezi,
fellow countrymen and women, compatriots and aliens, today marks the end of colonization for our country and indeed the beginning of liberty for the people of Barotseland. Surely our history, norms and values clearly testifies that we are one of the oldest African nations. Though we have been victims of subjugation and domination, however, in accordance with the International Bill of Human Rights, we are obliged as a people to determine the destiny of our country and nation. Fellow compatriots, there is no justifiable reason to subject the Barotse nation to another fellow African country. Antecedent: Barotseland is a geo-African country, state and nation that has been so named and recognized as such. In this respect, those falling short of knowledge can visit archives of the countries of the superpowers for confirmation. Barotseland was a British protectorate during 1890 to 1964, and a protectorate by British standard of laws is an area the soil of which does not belong to the crown, but the foreign nations of which are subject to its control based on agreement by treaty, grant or capitulation, etc. By 1964, those whites who protected Barotseland left, so the principle of post-millennium was expected to apply to the territory of Barotseland, but instead the British Crown colony of Northern Rhodesia and Barotseland was made to enter into agreement witnessed by the British government. The agreement took the place of the treaties between Barotseland and Britain. Note: parties to the Barotseland Agreement of 1964 were the Northern Rhodesia Government and Barotseland. To spice it all, it is essential to realize that the requisites of an agreement are two or more persons, a distinct intention common to both, known to both, referring to legal relations and affecting the parties. The whole purpose of the Barotseland Agreement of 1964 was to provide for the autonomy and the self-determination of Barotseland when the Northern Rhodesia colony was to become independent Zambia. On the contrary, the said agreement did not enter into force. Hence, instead of independence or self-determination, Barotseland was downtrodden and subjugated to the Zambian government. Now that the Zambian government inherited all the obligations of the British government over Barotseland at Zambia's establishment, and by the fact that the Barotseland Agreement took the place of the treaties between Barotseland and Britain, it follows that the Zambian government then becomes a quasi-protector or colonizer. Certainly, if you inherit obligations of the colonizer, you automatically become one. One Zambia, one nation. The school of thought of the simple-minded believe that the purpose of the agreement of 1964 was to make a unitary state of Zambia out of Northern Rhodesia and Barotseland in 1964. This notion is misleading and is a weak reasoning that can never be accepted, since the law of agreement states that in convention base contra hentiam votus potius quam verba spectari placuit, viz. In concluding agreements, the intention of the parties rather than words actually used should be considered. And since Barotseland agreement is taken into the light of a treaty, the law of treaties states that the agreement that has not entered into force is not legally binding. Besides, no treaty can change the character of the assenter, so Barotseland was to remain the same. That the agreement was not ex eco et bono entered into by the Zambian government is evident, considering Mr. Kaunda's deceitful acts. Any suggestion that Barotseland merged with Zambia in 1964 is a rebuttable presumption. Arguing on the preamble, it was not in the spirit and intent of the act of law as shown by the preamble of the 1964-1965 Constitution to establish a unitary state of Zambia comprising Barotseland. It is quite evident that the amendment to the preamble in 1996 to read unitary was done with intent to possess and occupy Barotseland as a res nullis, that is, honorless thing. Otherwise, why was the preamble changed? Furthermore, one is confronted with a question such as, did Barotseland become part of Zambia in 1996? However, we appreciate the legal norm, omnia prasamanta legitime facta donec probata in contrarium. That is, all things are presumed to have been legitimately done until the contrary has been proved. Corollary, we view one Zambia, one nation as a basis slogan, considering that legal axiom states as follows: quod contra legam fit pro infecto hebeta. That is, what is done contrary to law is deemed not to have been done at all. Therefore, to argue that Zambia was a unitary state at its establishment is to parade one's folly. Omitted in the Constitution of Zambia of 1964 is the provision: the agreement cited as Barotseland Agreement 1964 shall come into force on the day on which Northern Rhodesia, together with Barotseland, become the independent sovereign republic of Zambia. Thus, the relation was similar to that of cohabitation. Now that the true position of Barotseland is explicitly shown by the foregoing, we believe that no Barotse national shall conceive deception anymore, and realizing that the principle of obi jusi id medium, viz. Where there is a right, there is a remedy, we shall have the right to secure Barotseland. Finally, we realize that restitutio in integram that is restoration to the original position, the remedy administered by court of equity in rescinding a contract or otherwise placing parties in the position they occupied before entering into a transaction could apply to Barotseland. But since such a court cannot be found in Zambia, and knowing that Zambia depends on the law of succession to occupy Barotseland, and the agreement was rescinded by Act of Parliament Bill number 5, it is prudent for us to state without hesitation that Barotseland is from now henceforth declared officially to be an independent sovereign kingdom to be governed by her own people, and the head of state shall be no other than the Litunga. So the strong appeal is made to all Barotse nationals to cooperate with the Barotse government to be put in place soon. God bless.
It was a state-to-state agreement, and therefore that agreement cannot be brought to an end unilaterally, as it happened with the Kaunda's government. So that agreement, and I think misconception is that people think that when you talk about that, you are saying that once it comes into place, Barotseland will be as big as coming up to the line of rail. This is what in essence what I hear. This is not. Barotseland will remain as it is. Now we are calling it Barotseland province. That's where it is. It will not have any.
When you say you want to enact the agreement, what do you mean? Just the mere recognition of the fact that they have an option to secede?
No. That you see, that's not the point. The point is that you see, people are growing up. I'm not a Rosie, but I can see their concern, because when people grow up, they are questioning, what about that agreement which was signed by our forefathers? Where is it? Now that agreement stated that it should be there, and to bring it to an end, you have to consult the Litunga of the Litunga of Barotseland with his council and the people of Zambia. That's what it was. Now, what was wrong with that? So that can be there. But if the Roses want to secede, as you point out, to secede or to remain to Zambia, they must not be forced. They are people. You see people like Barotseland people, they are people, and even internationally, there's international recognition that when people the Barotseland qualifies to be a people and to run their own affairs if they so wish. They can even have a government of their own.
Let's get
so this is what I'm seeing at.
And you want to come and enact when you're president?
Yes, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
Even if they secede?
Even if, what's wrong with this? Because they were not in Northern Rhodesia before. They were a country. So if they secede, what's wrong with that? You know, it's only dictators who get worried about it. What's wrong with the Barotseland seceding? They qualify to be a state by international world standard.
The usually peaceful and quiet town of Mongu in the Western Province was on Friday 14th January 2011 transformed into what some people can call a war zone. Dozens of heavily armed police officers fought running battles with Mongu residents from 8 hours in the morning to around 18 hours in the evening. The street battles were ignited by people's desire to attend a meeting in Limulunga area of Mongu, which was called to discuss the way forward on the 1964 Barotseland Agreement. Heavy casualties were recorded, and most of them were as a result of police officers firing live bullets at the defiant protesters. This man was shot in the head and instantly died at Mongu's BP filling station for allegedly attempting to set it on fire. A young boy was also stoned to death, though residents claimed that he was killed by a stray bullet. A third body was also picked up along the Limulunga-Mongu road, and deep knife cuts were found on it, and police sources told Movie TV in Mongu that the casualty could have been killed on suspicion that he was a police informant. Meanwhile, more than 5 youths are admitted at Mongu's Lewanika General Hospital after they were shot by live bullets. Meanwhile, some Mongu residents talked to expressed their displeasure at the police, and most of them blamed the Ritunga for not restraining the officers.
Look to this issue as serious as possible. Because we have been neglected for 46 years. There is nothing which is happening. We are tired.
At the peak of the violence on Friday, Mongu residents took over control of the town center and burned tires, vehicles, and blocked roads. The irate residents stormed the Mongu Municipal Council offices and smashed office windows and these vehicles which were parked outside. The residents smashed the windows of the controversial hearses and some fire brigade vehicles. The residents, who are said to be sponsored by a group calling itself Rinyungandambo, also removed Zambia national flags at the Ministry of Labor, Auditor General's office, and the council offices. Meanwhile, armed police officers stormed the privately owned Liambai radio and confiscated computers and some other equipment. At the time of the raid, a disc jockey was live on air playing an advert sponsored by the group, which was calling on people to attend the Limulunga meeting to discuss the 1964 Barotse Agreement. By midnight on 14th January 2011, hundreds of residents had been arrested by the police, 4 minibuses were impounded, and dozens of knives, pangas, and catapults were confiscated by the police.
There's never been a day without defense and security forces killing people. What type of a government is this? Government of laws? No. That's why you go to intercity, you find 2 MMD boys kissing, they take a picture and giving to people. 2 MMD boys, they pay them to kiss each other. What type of a government is this? You wake up in the morning, DEC has killed a boy. Is it the job of DEC killing people, or when they find them smoking dark, or just arrest them and get the chamber away from them and keep them in prison? Now where are we going to go? In Mongu, killing. In Mazabuka, killing. Everywhere, killing. Where are we going to go?
Samuel Naungambakalimukwa. I am 62 years old. I was born in a local village
in Chief Kandala's area in Mungu district. My mother's village is in Kapuni. Currently, I am at Liambai Training College where I am lecturing. Before I went to Liambai, I was working in the Ministry of Education as a teacher. I retired in 2004. Right now, I am 18th February 2011. I was surprised when I was visited by Mungu. Went with them there. They asked me some questions. I was interrogated to find my role, what I had played, what I have done concerning Ringanabo, concerning the issues of Barotseland. I told them openly that I was the secretary of Ringanabo. And our intention was to sensitize the people of Barotseland so that they could know that they had a nation, they had a country, they were a nation also. They had their identity as the people of Barotseland, not as Zambians. I told them openly. Now, they were not very satisfied. They referred what I had said to their officers in Mungu, commanding officer, and some officers of the OP. I was locked in cells of Mungu from around 11 hours. I was there without any food, without any drink, without anything. Until around 20 hours. It's when I was caught. To my surprise, I was just asked to jump into a vehicle. I was not told where we were going. I was guarded by 6 armed policemen, as if I was a dangerous criminal. Yet I was armless, I was defenseless, I had nothing on me. But I was headed into the vehicle. I was driven throughout the night from Mungu. Then I realized I was being taken to Lusaka. We reached Lusaka around 4 a.m. in the morning. I was taken at SAFE's headquarters, which was known as Force Headquarters. Around 8 hours or 9 hours, senior police officers came to interrogate me. I was taken up the offices, in one of the offices, where I was confronted by 4 or 5 commissioners of police, but they were wearing plain clothes. They were also very interested. They wanted to know my roles. To my surprise, I was even shown the letters which I had written, which Ringanabo had circulated to the public. They wanted to know if I had actually written the letters. I admitted that I had written them, and that letters had been authorized by our committee. They also wanted to know what our intention was. I told them that our intention was to liberate Barotseland, because Barotseland right now we feel it was illegally being occupied by Zambia. Because what was supposed to link Barotseland to Zambia was the Barotseland Agreement, but that agreement had been abrogated by Zambia. So we were just wondering why Zambia still continued to occupy us. We feel we should now set our own government. I told them openly. They showed me even posters which were confiscated from here, asking me whether I admitted what was written there. I said I agreed with whatever was written there, absolutely perfect. Because what was written on one of the posters was in Ugandambo, Barotseland is our country, and we don't want to be ruled by Zambians. Seeking freedom is not treason. They asked me whether I agreed with that statement. I told them absolutely, I stood for that, and the Ugandambo stood for that. And the seeking freedom is not reasonable anywhere in the world. Seeking freedom is a right of every person. And if I say I want independence, no one should question it. They asked me whether I was a Zambian. I told them openly that I was not a Zambian. I was a Barotse national. They asked me why. I told them that since I was born in 1949 in Barotseland, not in Zambia. Zambia was just established in 1964. So by birth, I am a Barotse national. Maybe I can be a Zambian by registration. Then I can even renounce Zambian registration if I don't want. But there's no way I can renounce Barotse nationality. I am a Barotse national in blood throughout until I die. So I was further again asked questions. They told me to say, you're advising me. So it's better you leave this case with the BRE. The BRE currently was having negotiations with the government. So why can't you just leave the BRE and the government resolve the issue? I told them that BRE, as far as they were concerned, was illegal. It was unconstitutional. It was unworkable. BRE is appearing nowhere on the Barotseland Agreement. BRE was just a creation, an invention of Kaunda, where he wanted to manipulate the Itunga. And the same BRE is used by Pia Banda to manipulate Ruvosi without us. Now me, speaking on behalf of Barotseland, I'm appearing there on the document of Barotseland Agreement as people of Barotseland. So I am entitled to speak for Barotseland, and every Barotse national is entitled to speak for Barotseland. BRE is just fictitious. We don't accept it. The Zambia Royal Establishment, the Visa Royal Establishment, both are BRE, so they have to be specific. BRE is irrelevant. Maybe they should talk about Mulonga. Now our Mulonga, if ever we count on it, we cannot expect our Mulonga to liberate us. We are the people of Barotseland who should liberate ourselves. The further I wanted to know if I was ever involved in the organization of the 14th January meeting, that abortive meeting which led to bloodshed and a lot of problems. I told them that I was not there since that meeting was organized by citizens of Barotseland. It was not written by the Uganda, but the letter to the police was written by citizens of Barotseland who were concerned to talk about the issues of their country. Now surprisingly, when people gathered to talk about the issues of their country, they were spared by the police, leading to death and unnecessary suffering. That much I told them it was not necessary. They even asked me, say, we should caution our youth not to become violent. But I told them that our youth are not violent. In fact, the youth of Barotseland are the most disciplined and well-cultured youth in the world. They become violent only when they are provoked. When they meet, they want to discuss their issues, concerning their issues. Now someone comes to expect them to throw a tear gas. What do you expect? They turn violent also. Not that our youth become violent. No, they don't start any violence. But the police, Zambia police, they provoke them. So we are sick and tired of this Zambian occupation. We feel our country is being occupied by Zambia illegally. And we are going ahead to see to it that we are going to liberate our country. I was detained. I lost my freedom, my liberty, for a total number of 3 days and 3 nights. I was locked, I was a prisoner, and I was just thrown out. At the end, I was told I should just go, I should just come back to Barotseland. Without any explanation, I was simply told the DPP had decided you are to be released on insufficient evidence. I also wondered, how could I be released on insufficient evidence? With all the documents which I had admitted, which I had written, all the banners, everything which I had said. Someone says, released on insufficient evidence. What evidence would be sufficient? They just say, just go, you are troubling us, we just want you to go. So I further demanded to see the 22 Barotse nationals who were arrested. I wanted to meet them. I was told, no, in no way, we are not going to meet them, you are just going. Then I told them, well, now since I'm going, how do I travel to Mungu? You are the people who brought me all the way from Mungu. Now I expect you to give me transport back to my place, so that my family sees you handing me back to them. They said, no, we have no transport, just go. They just refused entirely. If I hadn't relatives in Osaka, I was going to suffer. But somehow, I contacted my relatives in Osaka who provided transport money, and I was back on Monday. Now, my view with regard to Barotseland and Zambia, we just feel that Barotseland and Zambia's relationship is no longer tenable. It can no longer be maintained by anyone, especially Barotse people. We feel sick and tired. We have to manage our country now. Whatever happens, Barotseland should be re-established as it had been all along. Because the history had been hidden from the young people. Now the history is coming out. People should know that there was a country called Barotseland, and there was a country called Northern Rhodesia, which came into coexistence, cohabitation, not coming from one country, no, but simply coexistence in 1964. And the document which established this coexistence was the Barotseland Agreement. Now the same Barotseland Agreement again was abrogated, nullified, and rubbished by the Zambian government. Now how do we feel we are part and parcel of Zambia? We are not. So let us just manage our affairs and liberate our country. Thank you very much. Anyway, during my detention by the police, they handled me quite well, very well. No one touched me, no one threatened me, no one intimidated me. They didn't even torture me because I had set the conditions beforehand when I was taken to the police station. I told them that I was a big man, I was supposed to be attended to in a civilized and mature manner. They all accepted that one. Even when I was taken to Osaka, they just treated me very well. I was not tortured in any way. But I had lost my freedom for 3 days and 3 nights.
Opposition Patriotic Front President Michael Sata recently took his presidential campaign to Mongu and Senanga districts in the Western Province. Mr. Sata, who first visited the provincial capital, was mobbed by his supporters at Mongu Airport upon arrival. Later in the day, Mr. Sata addressed a public rally at Bluegraham's grounds in Mongu, where he assured his supporters that he will restore the 1964 Barotseland Agreement within the first 90 days of getting into State House if he is voted into office this year.
We shall implement that agreement within 90 days because it will help us run other provinces. We are going to create provincial assemblies because all the money cannot be divided in Lusaka. Lusaka doesn't know what's happening in the Barotseland.
At the same rally, David Sioto, who was amputated following the January 14 Mongo riots, and a young boy who was also shot in the stomach, were paraded, and a number of PF sympathizers crowed loudly while the whole group observed a minute of silence for those who lost their lives in the riots. On Sunday, the PF presidential campaign team shifted to the Zambezi riverside town of Senanga, where Mr. Sata promised a lot of developmental projects.
We want the government in Mongu. The government is because when the government is near the people, the government will know what people are looking for.
During the opposition leader's 3-day stay in the province, flyers were being circulated where the Nyongandambo group was planning to kill the opposition leader and display his head publicly. However, Mr. Sata addressed his rallies peacefully and flew out of Mongu on Monday without being harmed.
To the Commissioner to inquire into the matters specified in the same commission, do solemnly and sincerely swear
by virtue of the State Commission. So help me God.
The recently appointed commissioners of the Barotse Commission of Inquiry have been sworn in. The 9-member commission was appointed by President Michael Sata last week to investigate the events surrounding the January 14th Mongo killings. After the swearing in, Chief Justice Ernest Sakala urged the commissioners to exercise impartiality in their duty.
You bear in mind the fact that there was loss of life during this particular act. In addition, there were some people who were prosecuted, convicted, but subsequently pardoned. Now all these things are going to weigh heavily on the findings which we are going to make. I have quickly looked at the terms of reference. They are mixed drill. There will be some terms of reference which will require extreme impartiality and objectivity. There are some which may require subjective test. Now, all that you will have to take into account.
The commission will be chaired by Lusaka lawyer Roger Chongwe. Among other commissioners include Justice Minister Sebastian Zulu, Chief Nalumamba, and former chairperson for the Mungomba Constitutional Review Commission, Willa Mungomba.
Because if they succeed, even if they succeed, they were granted succession today, what resources have they got to raise enough taxes to maintain, to give themselves what they want to sustain themselves?
Republican President Michael Sata says he is reluctant to accept the restoration of the 1964 Barotseland Agreement. During the presentation of the report by the Commission of Inquiry on the Mongo riots, President Sata said restoring the agreement would cause problems in the nation.
And all those next authorities, if now they were saying we should bring back the Barotse establishment, then let us forget about Zambia. Because if you bring back the Barotse establishment, then you bring the Zambia next authority establishment, the Gold next authority establishment, the chair of the authority establishment, the member, all of them. Because first of all, you haven't told me what benefit did the Barotse establishment or the Barotse agreement derive or gave the Barotse. So when we are reading this, we understand we can accept to investigate the brutality, investigate the torture, but I'm very reluctant to advise my government to reinstate Barotse agreement. Because by so doing, that's bringing Pandora's box. All the provinces, all the rest, the president will come and say you so wants to see.
In his presentation, Chairperson of the Commission, Dr. Roger Chongwe, said people in Western Province want the Barotseland Agreement to be restored.
That your government, as a matter of urgency, repeal the Constitutional Amendment Act of 1969, which abrogated the Barotseland Agreement in 1965 and 1964. Doing so will restore the Barotseland Agreement of the 18th May 1964. This may, Mr. President, sir, in turn restore lasting peace and unity in our country.
Under the course of the 14th January 2011 Mongo deadly riots, Dr. Chongwe blamed the police for its heavy-handedness. And Mr. Chongwe has disclosed that about 19 people died, contrary to reports that were released by the then government that only 2 people died out of the riots.
In particular, the Zambia Police Service exercised powers beyond their mandate as provided in the law. The former Vice President made a statement in Parliament on the 25th February 2007 over those riots. Further, the various statements made by the executive before, during, and after the riots were inciting the police and other public is Mr. President recommended. That the state should take responsibility for the loss of innocent lives, arrests, torture.
During his 2011 election campaigns, Mr. Sata campaigned on the platform of restoring the agreement in full.
We may be boasting that Zambia has got too much peace, but I would like to inform you we have a clique of human beings in Lukulu called Barotse Liberation Army. By yesterday, they had recruited 275 human beings. They recruited 628 human beings. And they have recruited ex-soldiers and ex-policemen and ex-poachers. So I would like to ask the commanders to take these newly trained people and yourselves, take them to Lukulu. We have to be ready, because training when you are adopting theory is something else. But when there is action, some of these soldiers here, they have never lifted a gun since they joined the army, and they have retired. So they don't even know how to stand on parade with a gun, because you don't know the velocity of that gun. So take them to Lukulu. Mr. Chimese provide airplanes. And you, Mr. Chimese, I told you before, it's high time we sacrificed everything and let's have transport planes. So you can't have an air force without transport planes. How am I going to lift these air people to go and sort out the people in Lukulu? When you go there, there is no tribe. When they say fire, you fire. And when they say ensha, fire. Batiri, fire.
Barotseland, traditional homeland of the Lozi people. Many here have never recognized the government in Lusaka. Many don't accept they're part of Zambia, and many want that independence formally recognized.
What we want is our Barotseland back. We won't die without the Barotseland independence.
Michael Sata's response to this? He's threatened to send in troops against them, with orders to shoot the activists. It's the latest chapter in a story that stretches back to the days of Cecil John Rhodes. The Barotse always felt they had a special relationship with the British Empire, one that granted them the power to run their own affairs. And when Zambia won its independence in 1964, they sought to maintain that autonomy. But the likes of Kenneth Kaunda and Frederick Chiluba weren't interested. Nor was Rupia Banda. His security forces suppressed separatist rallies. Nayoto Liamba was among those detained during those days.
Were taken into Lusaka, and they were detained in Lusaka Central Police, Central Prison. The detention was very bad, seriously bad. So prison conditions is always bad.
A new generation of Barotse is now taking up the fight, and they insist the president's threats will not deter them.
We have been appealing to the Zambian government since 1964, since 1969, that we should come on the round table and discuss this issue, but they have been making a lot of excuses.
But there's more at stake here than new laws and a new flag. Zambia's integrity is also in question.
This is Mongu in Zambia's western province. It was once the centre of Barotseland, a monarchy and British protectorate that joined Northern Rhodesia in 1964 to form modern Zambia. Many people here now want that union to split. In August, dozens of alleged separatists were arrested and accused of treason. They say President Michael Sata broke an election promise to restore the Barotseland Agreement of 1964, a treaty recognising the king of the Lotse people that allowed for some autonomy. A leading separatist told me they won't rule out using force to get what they want.
The best possible means is that of litigation, political agitation and diplomacy. If it fails, force is an option in a situation like this because it happens everywhere. It's the natural course of events.
The Lotse honour their king in ancient ceremonies like this. Separatists say they want to be able to chart their own course politically, and they're demanding a fair share of the country's mineral wealth. Some Lotse are worried a new Zambian constitution that's being drafted will further undermine Barotse's special place in history.
Although they see that the better option is for us to continue living in harmony with our brothers and sisters in Northern Rhodesia, that has failed in the last 49 years.
Many Lotse say the government has neglected them. It wouldn't comment because of the court case, but there are signs it's listening. Motorists are being asked what improvements could be made. The government's already working on giving the provinces more powers, which may placate some separatists, but it says it won't make a special case of any one province, and it seems it won't tolerate unrest. Kabuku Kutibua is afraid to speak freely. Her disabled son and her husband are among those accused of treason, but she says they've done nothing wrong.
The situation is devastating. What kind of leadership have we got in this country that there's no mercy? We're terrified the police will come back and arrest us too.
While some people here would happily settle for more investment from government, others want a separate state. It may be a sensitive issue, but it is not going away. Tanya Page, Al Jazeera, Mongu, Zambia. Progress Mukumbuta has lived on the floodplains of the Zambezi River his whole life in what is now Zambia's western province. His farm is in the heart of what locals call Barotseland, a former monarchy in which the king signed a treaty in 1964 to join Northern Rhodesia to form an independent Zambia. When the annual rains come, Mukumbuta watches the river rise. But this year it's the rising tide of separatist sentiment he's thinking about.
I think the biggest problem is that our leaders already treat the Barotse differently. There's already separation in a sense. I was grateful Mr. Michael Sata promised to help us, but after becoming president, he's gone back on his word, and now people who question that are charged with treason.
His name is Progress, but he's seen none of it here. Like many people in this impoverished province, he believes the Zambian government has failed to improve infrastructure and basic services. His sons climb mango trees for fun. He can't afford to send them all to school. Some have to work.
I was expecting to make a good living from this, but I need help from government. A plough, seeds and fertilizer. I work so hard but get hardly anything from it.
After hours spent in the field, the day's nearly over. Mukumbuta's had a long time to think about what is best for his family's future, although he's afraid he may get in trouble for speaking his mind, like the dozens of people who have been arrested this year and accused of being separatists and committing treason.
From what I've seen over the years, government has not been able to help us lead meaningful lives. Barotseland should be let go to chart its own way. We don't benefit from this union.
Their life is simple in a complex political and historical scene. Around the evening fire, the desire for self-determination burns. Tanya Page, Al Jazeera, Western Province, Zambia. The men and women accused of treason were brought to court under an armed guard. They want the western region of Barotseland to separate from Zambia. One of the leaders had every reason to smile on his way into court, as soon, to everyone's surprise, they were all released. But the magistrate warned they could be rearrested at any time, so they couldn't speak freely.
I'm most grateful to the legal system of Zambia because it is through this that we have been released. Because we know that anything else will come later, but for now I don't want to say anything else.
They were arrested in August after declaring a Barotseland national government and appointing an Administrator General who's still on the run. Their demand is based on a 1964 agreement which promised limited self-rule for Barotseland. In the heart of the former monarchy's territory, now called Western Province, people say that treaty's never been honoured. They want to separate from Zambia through peaceful means, but say force is an option.
The government says it's not going to negotiate the Barotseland bid for independence with these separatists nor anyone else, because it says if it were to allow the province to secede, then other provinces might want the same thing.
Most people in the capital, Lusaka, don't support the idea either.
Well, all I can say is we shouldn't separate, it's just supposed to be one Zambia, one nation.
It's not good to separate because we are one Zambia, one nation. Because in the future it can bring war.
They want to be independent because they're not being paid attention in terms of development.
Your Excellency, I'm most grateful.
While former President Rupia Banda called to congratulate them, one family was particularly relieved. Like all the others, Mukumbuta Akandelwa has been held without being formally charged for over 3 months. His disability made the ordeal more difficult. While their chances of seceding are remote in many people's eyes, here there is new hope. Tanya Page, Al Jazeera, Lusaka, Zambia.
Not worried about the ongoing court cases of those facing a charge of treason felony, others have really continued to call for the independence of Barotseland.
We are asking Mr. Sata to give us our country. All we need is our country. We can run our country and develop ourselves on our own. We know our resources. We've got our people. We've got the potential to develop our country. Not Zambia to develop us. Fetch to lead us alone.
Solo kusata hamotoli ni kwa muso wa Zambia kikuli. Barotwe batu baluna nikuti sazoro pili mwana ya bolozi kaluna batu ba bolozi shike ka muso wa Zambia
mutu hai bali abatasika sahai uswanela kusishiwa.
They should bring Kaunda to come and classify the relationship between Zambia and Barotseland. Please, full stop.
Preparations for an event are also underway, where some Westerners are expected to give up their Zambian citizenship. The self-acclaimed Barotse nationals will surrender their Zambian Green National Registration Cards, NRCs, passports, then assume the said new Barotseland citizenship. The Barotse activists say some of them are older than Zambia as a state, hence that gives them an automatic Barotse citizenship. They add that they have a right to belong to any nation, in this case, Barotseland. It remains to be seen how this exercise will be executed, considering the fact that the Zambia police is not hesitant in clamping those perceived to be Linyunga numbers. Lloyd Kapsa, Movie TV News, Mongu, Western Province. They add that they have a right to belong to any nation, in this case, Barotseland. It remains to be seen how this exercise will be executed, considering the fact that the Zambia police is not hesitant in clamping those perceived to be Linyunga numbers. Lloyd Kapsa, Movie TV News, Mongu, Western Province.
And Sikubele Wasilota, a musician who composed a song entitled "It Is Time for Barotseland," needed protection from the commission before he could start testifying.
Some of them are in this house, some out there, who assured me just some weeks ago that they'll make sure, using the state machinery, they're going to make sure that I die as soon as possible.
Barotseland kinako omukutusa edusa Barotseland kinako kupala kumandela ipo ipusa Wakauhana ni Northern Rhodesia Barotse agreement vaichanganisa yona avasikalo kuteka Ndeva vatahe ni tutobolo alusa sava Rupa vafenya Ndifasengate zelunani aluipusa Manyando afela Ndifasengate zelunani aluipusa Ulozi bafuma Afrika yote babu Hava batakuona chisayo yaluna valutuse Amerika babu Hava batakuona chisayo yaluna valutuse Britain babu Hava batakuona chisayo yaluna valutuse German babu Hava batakuona chisayo yaluna valutuse France babu Hava batakuona chisayo yaluna valutuse Mana basilo zilu salisa neni Habakone kulunyandisa chanava Mana basilo zilu galeke amo Habakone kulunyandisa chanava Mambunda malozi aliye Komo kutufa itusa Barotseland kina Kukupala kumbala ndelo ipusa Wakauhana ni Northern Rhodesia Barotse agreement vaichanganisa yona avasikalo kuteka Ndeva vatahe ni tutobolo alusa sava Rupa vafenya Ndifasengate zelunani aluipusa Manyando afela Ndifasengate zelunani aluipusa Ulozi bafuma Hello my people, we are here gathered today listening to this favorable speech. My people perish because of lack of knowledge, and we are here gathered because somebody distorted the truth. Now I'm here to let you know the truth is we have to free the people. Let's give what belongs to the people, and this is nothing but the truth. I know some of you are here grunting and panting and your teeth waiting to bite somebody. You can come and bite me, but the truth shall remain the way it is. Let's give what belongs to the people. Barotseland kina Kukupala kumbala ndelo ipusa Wakauhana ni Northern Rhodesia Barotse agreement vaichanganisa yona avasikalo kuteka Ndeva vatahe ni tutobolo alusa sava Rupa vafenya Ndifasengate zelunani aluipusa Manyando afela Ndifasengate zelunani aluipusa Ulozi bafuma Aluzaki zamana mutu Aluzaki zamana Aluzaki zamana mutu Nubanda baliwanika Akunda ya musabisa Lukonje lukomi Saluzaka za lukonka Nubanda baliwanika Komo kutufa itusa Barotseland kina Kukupala kumbala ndelo ipusa